Great to see a packed room here. Good morning to everybody. I am State Senator Darrell Steinberg, and what a proud and happy day this is. I want to begin by thanking my colleague, Senator Denise Ducheny, the chair of our Budget Committee, who you will hear from in a moment, who has been a great leader in this very broad effort for a number of years. And, you know, we both had different bills and slightly different approaches, but we come together today as partners moving forward this historical bill, Senate Bill 375. I am very, very happy to be joined this morning by an unlikely and powerful coalition for changing the way we think and act about sustainable growth here in California. For I think the first time ever, or at least the first time in memory, we have leaders of the environmental community, the building community, the local government community, coming together to agree on how to accommodate California's growth. It is also the first time in the country that the issues of land use, transportation, housing, and climate change have been brought together in a comprehensive piece of legislation. There is universal agreement in California that the way we grow, the way we integrate housing, transportation, and land use is crucial to meeting the goals laid out in the landmark piece of legislation from 2006, Assembly Bill 32, the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Act. Senate Bill 375 is a huge advance for meeting our aggressive climate change goals and the lead land use strategy to assure AB 32 compliance. This comprehensive measure makes many changes to the laws relating to growth in California. But fundamentally, this is what it's about. The Air Resources Board will set greenhouse gas reduction targets for 17 regions in this state relating to land use and transportation as it impacts cars and light trucks. If you build within the regional plan, you get significant relief. The bill makes it much easier to locate that growth within the regional plan, and you also get the benefit of California's significant investment going forward when it comes to transportation infrastructure. We are here today not yet to celebrate, although it is, I think, quite a celebration to see the diverse group of stakeholders that we have behind us. But we are really here to urge the Assembly to pass Senate Bill 375 and for the governor to sign it. We're going to hear from a number of speakers here today. We're going to try and keep this under 2.5 hours. Yes, I know we do. But I want to acknowledge a few people who you won't be hearing from directly, but who have been crucial to the passage of this bill. Bill Craven, the chief consultant of the Resources Committee. We usually don't, mention the staff, but without Bill, this would not have happened. Joe Caves, Bill Yates, Gavin Newsom, Chris McKenzie, the executive director of the League of Cities, Deanne Baker, Sandy George, Paul McIntosh from CSAC, Ken Cooley is here from the Rancho Cordova City Council, Amanda Eakin from NRDC is here as well, and many others participated in bringing us here today. Let me turn it over for a moment again to the joint author of the bill, Senator Denise Ducheny. Denise?
Thank you all very much for joining us today, and I would just add a few other thank yous to staff. This really has been a rather long process. Once upon a time, about 6 years ago, I was the chair of the Housing Committee in this House, And we started talking about how to do planning better, how to get longer range planning, how to get more certainty in the process. And Mayor Fargo and some of the others who I would mention, Jim Madaffer, who is a San Diego City Councilman and now President of the League of Cities, and others joined in a conversation that I think, and Sonny McPeak was still here in something about 2002 or so. And some of these discussions, and really this is an evolution that comes out of that process. And in the middle, you had AB 32, which added to it. And so when we started this a couple of years ago, Senator Steinberg's bill was focused on this: how are we going to comply with AB 32? And our bill was still trying to figure out how to join transportation and land use planning, how to get better certainty so we really would build the affordable housing that folks commit to in their plans, how to get sustainable communities, and how to have the opportunity for people not to have so many hoops to go through to build a project that actually met the planning goals that had been set out. And it's now been almost 2 years since we started that bill, and we are really pleased today to have this joint effort. And I think Daryl's right. We'll have to check other states, but I doubt if anybody has come together on as comprehensive a way of looking at planning as it needs to be in the 21st century, that acknowledges environmental needs and thinks about sustainable communities, that actually links transportation and housing. And I have to say, partly the reason it's me and Daryl is because the folks that led the way on this are SACOG and SANDAG. The San Diego Association area governments and the Sacramento governments were out front on thinking about these regional blueprints, about how to use transportation incentives to meet housing goals. Both of our regions have been leaders in that, and I acknowledge them for a lot of the participation they've gone into. This work product comes from there, and I would be remiss not to mention my staff, like Daryl's, who have been in this for a while. John Ferrer in the back, and Nadia Leal, I don't know if she's here, but they were working on this, our piece of this housing bill, for a very long time, the last couple of years, and tons of meetings. So I think this is an opportunity for California, and we are really pleased that the cities have come on board, and I think a lot of cities and regions, if they will look at this way of planning, think about how to get the zoning that helps us get the affordable housing we need to comply with the needs for workforce housing that we need, and actually hopefully get ourselves out of this economic crisis that has been driven, at least at the moment, by housing. And for many years we were way behind the curve. The prices got up so high. Now we're in a crisis. It's time to get back to the basics, and the basics are making sure that we can provide workplace housing, affordable housing for all our residents, and given the price of gases, that we actually try to figure out how to plan the transportation hubs and the housing so that people are not commuting as far as they have been. That's a critical piece of this, and it goes both to reducing carbon emissions and to having a better quality of life for our residents. So thank you to all of the hundreds of stakeholders and people who've been in meetings for a couple of years on this, and I do hope that the Assembly, when they've seen all of the pieces of this in print, Ana Caballero was very helpful to us in the last year on our bill, and I think a lot of folks over there need to look at it, and hopefully the governor will join us in what I think is another historic effort. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator. I now want to introduce the sponsor of the bill, and certainly no one has put more heart and sweat and intellect into this effort, and we owe great thanks to Tom Adams, CLCV. Tom?
Thank you very much, Daryl. I would, in my view, SB 375 is the most important land use bill in California since enactment of the Coastal Act. And it has taken 32 years since that bill was enacted to bring a coalition together who could make major land use change in California. And I think if we're going to go forward as a state in a way that meets our housing goals, meets our transportation goals, and meets our environmental goals, we need to have a critical mass in support of that kind of strategy. No one has been able to bring, the environmental community, the builders, the local governments, and other groups in support of a common objective for decades. And Senator Steinberg has accomplished that in this bill, and I think it is an amazing achievement on his part, and we are tremendously grateful for his leadership. I would like to just speak briefly about the contents of the bill. The bill essentially has three parts to it. The first part amends the regional transportation planning process so that the regions will design a development pattern that will reduce commute times, reduce emissions, and help us achieve our affordable housing goals. This bill is built on the landmark planning process that was done in this region under the leadership of the Sacramento Council of Governments, a plan which was recently covered in the front page of the Wall Street Journal. I'd just like to show you a couple of maps. Here's a map of what the urban footprint in Sacramento would look like under the business as usual scenario. This is a map of the urban footprint with the kind of planning that SB 375 envisions. The urban footprint with this kind of planning is 360 square miles less than the business as usual scenario, and yet it contains the same number of housing units, the same population, the same number of jobs. This is the equation for solving the problems that we face in terms of housing, getting shorter commute times for people. But when you have shorter commutes, when you reduce vehicle miles traveled, it's also important to recognize that you reduce traffic congestion. Here's a map of the Sacramento region which shows traffic congestion under the business as usual scenario. Here's a map which shows traffic congestion under the kind of planning that SB 375 will bring about. We're going to have, because we'll have shorter commutes, less vehicle miles traveled, and less emissions, one of the things that California wants and that this bill will achieve is less congestion. As Senator Ducheny said, the bill also amends a very important program in the state of California where regional housing needs are assessed and allocated to regions. Right now, the Regional Housing Needs Program is going in one direction, and the Regional Transportation Planning process is going in a different, although similar, direction. What this bill will do is say that the Regional Housing Needs Assessment and the strategies that will be adopted under the Regional Transportation Planning process will be aligned. The housing distribution throughout the regions will be put in locations that will help California achieve its strategic environmental goals of climate policy, air quality, and energy conservation. Finally, the bill amends the California Environmental Quality Act. The Environmental Quality Act is California's premier statute for protecting the environment. That bill needs to be adjusted so that the procedures for environmental review of projects rewards projects that are consistent with strategies that will achieve our climate goals, air quality, and energy conservation, and helps us promote the kind of transit priority projects that are for the future of needed for the future of California. Each of these issue areas, land use, the Regional Housing Needs Allocation Program, and the California Environmental Quality Act, are regarded by many people as sacred cows. They certainly are, at a minimum, a minefield for anyone who wants to amend them. I think that to say that we would have just done land use would have been incredible, or just to have done the RENA program, or just to have done CEQA. This bill is a trifecta of the impossible. Senator Steinberg has managed to pull together a bill that brings some of the most important and most difficult statutes in the state of California into alignment so that we can achieve housing for the population as needed, environmental quality, climate policy, air quality, reduce congestion, increase housing choices, and have a better transportation policy for California. I think it's an incredible achievement, and I hope we can get the Assembly and the government to join us in this effort.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Whoa. When you use the word trifecta, I didn't know the bill addressed the struggling California horse racing industry, but But Annie Notoff, who's also been a key partner in this from the NRDC. A few words. Thank you.
Thank you. For the vehicle miles traveled, the amount that Californians drive is increasing almost at twice the rate of California's general population. So as one of the co-sponsors of AB 32, NRDC thought it was very important to do something to address the transportation patterns that are contributing to global warming here in California, since 40% of all our greenhouse gas emissions come from cars and light trucks. Now, we can get cleaner cars, we can get cleaner fuel, but if we don't reduce how much people have to drive in California to get to work, to get to the market, to get wherever they need to go, we're not going to be able to tackle the greenhouse gas emissions that we need to from the transportation sector, and we're not going to meet the ambitious goals that we've all committed to in AB 32. So that's why NRDC has worked very hard with all the different parties here to come up with something that is a solid first step at tackling the very hard job of reducing the amount that Californians have to drive to get their business done. This dovetails very well, we think, with the scoping plan that the California Air Resources Board is currently developing to implement AB 32. We need to have really tough regional greenhouse gas reduction targets for this transportation sector, and we think SB 375, will give California the tools it needs to reduce those emissions. And that's why we urge the Assembly to pass the bill and the Governor to sign it. Thank you.
Thank you. We, of course, couldn't do this or be here today without not only the support, but the incredible dedication and hard work of California's builders as well. And representing the builders is the president of the CBIA, Ray Becker. And after Ray will be someone, when I said Tom Adams put his, I think he said blood, sweat, and tears into this effort, the same must be said of Ed Manning. And Richard Line and Tim Coyle, great work as well. But Ed Manning especially went to great lengths to represent his clients vociferously, but at the same time helped us find the solution here. So Ray Becker, Ed Manning, please share the podium.
Thank you, Senator. Good morning, everyone. It's an incredible opportunity to be with you here this morning on this historic occasion to celebrate this great agreement. It's a major accomplishment, not just because of the disparate groups of people that have come together to craft this agreement, but because it actually, for the first time, will provide solutions to the many significant issues, particularly related to housing and environmental protection here in the state. I have to tell you that I spent nearly most of my 30-year career in this industry fighting regional planning and regional government. One more level of government to have to try to deal with in the very cumbersome and difficult process of moving housing forward. But, and I want you to circle the date on the calendar, I could not agree more with Tom Adams that you heard Tom say that we cannot continue to do business as usual. And in fact, no one standing here today is going to continue to do business as usual. We've all agreed in one way or another to change the way we do business, to be able to come together in this historic agreement. I think that's a remarkable accomplishment. For our purposes, for the purposes of California's home builders and the hardworking men and women of California's home building industry, as you heard Senator Ducheny say, we get more certainty in the process, and that's something that's absolutely critical to us because it is a long, difficult process to get housing approved in California today. And I want to make a special nod to Senator Ducheny because she's been a champion of certainty for so many, many years, and we appreciate that. And finally, I think that we can all be proud that after so much hard work that an agreement has taken place that represents the fact that everyone is contributed and everyone is supportive of this agreement. It's a fantastic accomplishment, Senator. Congratulations. But for your leadership, it would not have happened.